Welcome to ChiroSphere, where we talk about all things chiropractic and some things not so chiropractic. I'm Dr. Ray Foxworth, your host for ChiroSphere and CEO of Chiro Health USA, the network that works for chiropractic. Today on our podcast, I'm looking forward to talking to my friend, Lisa Maciejewski-West, a true powerhouse in chiropractic billing, compliance, and practice management. Lisa's career spans more than 4 decades, starting in '82, and she is one of the most recognized experts in the field. She founded Gold Star Medical Business Services in 2006, which provides nationwide outsourced billing, compliance, and consulting services for chiropractic and medical practices. She holds an impressive list of certifications, including medical coder, insurance specialist, medical office manager, auditor, certified professional compliance officer, and she's also an instructor for the American Association of Professional Coders. I don't know when you find time to work, Lisa.
I don't. I don't. I
Uh,
mean, I'm always working, so
She's also taught courses for state associations across the country and presented at the American Billers Association National Conference multiple times. So, welcome to the podcast.
thank you, Ray. It's so good to connect with you and to visit with you. I know that you do a lot of traveling too, so I never know where you're at, but
Yes,
it looks
we're just
like you're
all
somewhere nice because you're outside. So good for you.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to catching up with you today. For the record, Lisa was my biller for many years before I stepped out of practice. So I don't just know her as a fellow vendor or provider in the profession, but truly as someone who has helped take care of my business. So, Lisa, you've
And
been
we
in
still take care of your former business as well. So
yeah.
we've kept the legacy going.
Well, I appreciate that. I've got
Yeah,
a great couple of docs that were associates in the practice that bought out the practice, and I could not be prouder of them for
they're
kind of
doing
carrying the
wonderfully.
work that we laid back to 1985. It's been amazing.
Yeah.
Been in chiropractic billing and consulting since about '82. I got to ask you, what first drew you to that field? Because that's kind of odd to want to do billing. I mean, it's kind of dry for a lot of people. So
You know,
what first
it's
drew you to it, and what's been the biggest changes you've seen over the last 5 to 10 years?
sure. So it's funny that you say that because this October, I've been asked to be the keynote speaker at the American Medical Billing Association National Conference, and the keynote address I'm giving is called the Accidental Biller.
Like that.
That's my that's the title of my address, and actually I'm going to be talking to a group of hundreds of medical billers about how they get into the business, and honestly, most of us do get into it by accident. And it was just one of those things where I was in college. I was going to Manhattan School of Music to get a degree in classical voice,
Wow, I did not
and
know that.
I was working for a temp agency, doing odd temp jobs at different offices, and this job came up. It was a summer job that where they asked me if I wanted to go and work in a doctor's office. They didn't say chiropractor; they said doctor because this was 1982, so people didn't admit that they were chiropractors back then. It was a little bit of a different time. And so they said, "Do you want to go? It's a maternity leave. It's for the summer. Do you want to go and work for this doctor?" And I took the job because it was perfect for me. And it turned out that this gal ended up not coming back. So I ended up working as this chiropractor in New York City. I worked for him as his CA through the rest of my college term. And during that period of time, he had a lady that was doing his billing. Her name was Sarah, and Sarah had been there. I had been there about 4 months, and one day I came into the office, and I was his front desk CA at the time. So I came into the office, and Doc said, "Lisa, Sarah just quit." And I said, "Well, what happened?" He said, "Well, I'm not sure what's going on." He said, "I had a note on my desk saying she met this guy from Pablo, a guy named Pablo, and they've been dating, and they've decided to run off to Puerto Rico and get married, and she's gone. So it was one of those things where I kind of got thrown into billing as a result of somebody quitting, which is an age old story in the chiropractic profession. I mean, it happens all the time. And so I learned boots on the ground, how to do it. And back then, of course, you've been around probably as long as I have, Ray, and we had ledger cards, and we had typewriters and claim forms, and it took 90 days to get paid, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it was just one of those stories.
Yeah. I remember we thought we were really fancy when we went from a typewriter to an IBM Selectric. Do you remember that?
Yeah, and those dot matrix printers.
Yeah. Oh, you gotta. I can I can hear him in the background now.
Yep, exactly.
That's funny. Um,
Exactly.
what year did it really move to, instead of the paper process, to electronic billing? You ever-
Interesting. I would say the mid 90s to late 90s is when that really started to move forward. And one of the very, very first uh, practice management software programs I worked on was a program called DC Easy, which is now Practice Studio. Our friends at Microfor, own Practice Studio, and then they got connected with old Brad Cost at
Yeah.
Infinity. And so the very first electronic claims that I filed was through DC Easy to Infinity. And back in those days, it took days to get set up for electronic billing. I mean, you had to manually enter in all of your patients into this system and configure everything. And it was, I was talking to Brad about this the other day, because he and I serve on the Cairo Future uh, technical committee together. And so, I was talking to him. I said, back in the day, I'll never forget the first time I pressed the button to file an electronic claim, and that fax thing came on, that beep, 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 that kind of thing. And all of a sudden these claims went, and I got this message saying successfully transmitted. And I thought, okay, what do I do now? And I was on the phone with
There-
Infinity, and they said, nothing. You've done it. You've filed the claims. I literally started crying. I mean, I burst into tears. I think it's the same thing that a woman feels after she's had 20 hours of labor, and then the baby comes, and it's like, "Oh, this is a beautiful thing," right? So, but that labor in the first part was so hard, and now it's just a breeze. I mean, of course, it's changed so much in those 30 years or so.
I can remember the dial-up days and trying to transmit over that, and of course the signals were
Yep,
horrible. Yeah,
yep,
it's been interesting to see things change.
yep.
So, what inspired you to launch Gold Star? And I mean, clearly you built it to where you're providing services nationwide. That's no small feat. Um, what made you decide to go out and do this for other practices?
Well, actually, at the time that I started Gold Star, I had been working for 5 years as a practice coach with Katz Management.
For you done too.
You remember that Dave Katz, was the owner of Katz Management, had a very successful consulting firm, and so I had moved from working as a CA to working as a doctor's office manager. In 1999, I had a little surprise come into my life. He's 27 now, and after that, the doctor that I had been working with, we had opened up a bunch of satellite clinics together, and using Katz Management's programs and policies, procedures. After Jeffrey was born, I couldn't do the traveling because I was in West Texas. We were traveling all over. We had opened up 4 clinics together, and I was kind of the go-to person traveling around at the clinics. So, yeah, I started working with Katz Management as a full-time practice coach. During that time, my husband became ill, and he went on disability. He couldn't work outside the home anymore. And so we came up with this kind of crazy idea that I would teach him how to do billing. And we found a client, and we started billing for this doctor. It was a doctor in Ohio. And he just recently retired. So, but we had him the whole time that he was a client of ours, and his partner, now we still do his billing. It's just one of those things. When so we started it in 2005, 2006 is when we actually started doing the actual work. And in 2009, my husband passed away. So after he passed away, I had, by that time, we had grown. We had about 7 or 8 doctors we were doing billing for. It was just word of mouth. And I thought, gosh, I've been teaching doctors for 10 years how to build their practices and how to grow and how to be successful. Why can't I do this for myself?
There you go.
And so after a lot of thought and prayer, I just said, I think I'm gonna make a go of this. So I left, uh, which is now integrity management. In the middle of this, they had gotten bought out. So I left integrity management, and I started running the company full time. So yeah,
Well, Lisa, I've always been impressed with your story and particularly your heart in helping people that are, and I'm going to use the word differently abled because I don't like disabled. How about share with the listeners who you hire? I think you were recognized by the state of Texas for your efforts.
yeah. So because my husband was disabled, I was able to tie into, at that time in Texas, the department was called DARS, which is the Department of Assistive and Rehabilitative Services. And it gave me the opportunity to recruit and hire people with disability who couldn't work outside the home. And so we started working with DARS to train people how to do billing. Um, and and I've still got several of the ladies that work for me now are byproducts of that original um, thing that I did with DARS. And now DARS is part of the Texas Workforce Vocational Rehab Commission. But and I worked as a on the board of the Rehab Council for a few years to kind of facilitate that and facilitate helping people with disabilities. But you're right, I do have a heart for that. There's nothing better than being able to tell somebody who hasn't been able to find a job because of their disability that I've got something for them if I train them. There's been a lot of tears of joy over the years.
I can imagine. Yeah,
Being able to hire people who have physical handicaps that don't allow them to work, because all of the workers in our company are remote. Everybody works from home, including myself, and we don't have a physical location, a physical office, and so
that's
we
the
all
right amount of overhead.
just the right amount. Well, I tell you though, with Google Workspace and all the email addresses, I might as well be paying rent, but it's okay, you know. It's all good, but yeah, and yeah, it's great. We've also worked with some veterans groups as well, to bring disabled veterans into the company, and so I have 6 or 7 people who are currently, disabled veterans that work for me as well, and they're all just wonderful people. We've really have a good retention rate of workers. So the people that work for me have been with me for years and years and years. We try to treat them right, and we try to, give them, meaningful work, which is really what it's all about.
And that's awesome. There's an awful lot of talent out there and people that aren't physically able to go to work.
Exactly.
It's anytime you can do something like that for someone who's experiencing that, I mean, that is just, it's got to be rewarding. I
Yeah.
applaud you for it.
Yeah.
So, with your background in compliance, what are the top 2 or 3 biggest pitfalls that you see most chiropractors facing today? I know because I talk to so many docs, or our company does, and they all have their compliance manuals, and they've never had the seam broken and opened up and taken out of the plastic wrap. They think, oh, I got a compliance manual. It's on the shelf, kind of right next, to all the dust. So
Yeah.
someone
Well,
who's
I mean, right
station,
now, I would say the two things are from a documentation standpoint. I think one of the big problems are the software, the EMR software programs out there that allow doctors to salt their notes.
Hmm.
Okay.
That's same
Uh,
last time for those that don't know.
Same as last time. Yeah. And there are good things about that, right? It does save time. It helps the chiropractors who are high volume, producers and practitioners to get their notes done in a fairly short period of time. The problem is not looking from one note to the next, to make any changes. And so what happens is they get audited and it shows that a patient's, let's say the patient showed on the first visit that their pain scale was an 8 out of 10, and visit 15 it's still an 8 out of 10 because nobody bothered to change that that pain scale, right? And the insurance company is saying, well, what do you mean? You saw the patient 15 times and their pain scale is still 8 out of 10. You should have referred them at visit 6. Yeah. So that is from a documentation standpoint, I think that's a problem. I think really right now, one of the biggest issues is cash practice compliance. And I'm actually that's one of the top, like I call hot topics that I've been teaching at state associations this last year. I have a class that I teach on cash practice compliance because many chiropractors are moving towards more cash than insurance, which is completely understandable. And I'm saying this, as a billing company, um, you know, it, it's not really affecting us because we still have to do insurance billing, but it has changed. And I think more doctors are moving towards cash practices. I think a lot of doctors who move towards the cash practices think that it's going to be easier on them documentation wise, uh, but that's not the case. I think there are a lot of pitfalls in compliant collections when it comes to cash practice. I think that the No Surprises Act, and some of the laws, the no opt out law for chiropractors. You have chiropractors who are saying, "Well, I'm 100% cash practice," but they're treating Medicare patients without a Medicare number. That is a big, big no. And so there are some really, really big minefields right now in the cash practice side of things that you are out there teaching, I'm out there teaching, and hopefully we're going to be able to bring the cash practice doctors into what I call the lines of the coloring book, because there definitely is compliance that their notes have to be just as good for a cash practice doctor as for insurance. I mean, for malpractice alone, their notes have to be just as good. So I really think that's a major pitfall right now that we're seeing in the chiropractic field is doctors who move to cash practice who don't understand the compliance risks within the cash practice itself.
Yep. I wrote an article a couple of years back about cash or insurance practice, and the gist of it was I think a lot of doctors want to move out of insurance because they don't understand it. It's a headache, no doubt about that. That is a huge problem. But really, nothing changes other than the payer source. You've still got your rules and regulations from your
That's
board of
right.
examiners on your documentation.
Yeah,
You've still got to deal with, proper coding, CPT, in case the patient takes a receipt and goes to, try to get reimbursed. And then the other thing, when doctors come to us, they think we're a cash practice company, and we're really not. We're a
we're not.
non-covered services company, and
Yes,
patients these days, it isn't like years ago when, people had 24 or 36 visits. They've got limited benefits. So if you recommend 12 or 15 visits and insurance only covers 6, you better know what you're doing when you transition from insurance
exactly.
to private pay. And then here's the other big thing I want folks to take away. We did another article a few years back. I actually did a survey out to the general public through an app called PickFu, and I asked people if they had insurance, and if they did have insurance, would they ever consider seeing an out of network provider? And something like 73% said they would not go to an outer network provider if they had an in-network provider. And I think what we have to realize as docs is, we have this challenge of pick whose numbers ever you want. We see 10 to 15, maybe 18% of the population. About 80% of the population have health insurance and they pay a lot of money for it. And people want to be able to utilize their insurance. And when they call your office and you say, well, no, we're not in network, you can have all kind of fancy things to tell them to try to get them to come in. They may even schedule an appointment, but then they don't show up because they want to be able to use it. And I tell docs, think of it like this. If you go out and wreck your car and you take it to the body shop and they tell you, we don't take insurance, you want to pay out of pocket?
Absolutely not.
Probably not.
No.
So because we've already got limited market share, and if you're not willing to play the insurance game or however you want to call it, you are really limiting yourself to the number of people that might come into your practice, because not accepting can be a barrier to them receiving care in your office. So just something to think about. And if you hate insurance, you don't like doing the billing part, call Lisa. That work?
That's right. We can take care of that part for you. I
Yeah.
mean, whether it's in or out of network billing, I mean, we can help with that, I think for me, the saddest thing that I've heard, and this has been a bit of an overarching theme from the cash practice doctors, is when I go out, and especially when I'm teaching about Medicare and the fact that chiropractors cannot opt out of Medicare at this time, right? And what that means is that you either are a Medicare provider in network, out of network, or you have to refer all your Medicare patients out of your practice. And if they age into the practice, you have to if they age into Medicare, you have to refer them out. So you may have a patient that you've had for 20 years that you stop treating because you don't have a Medicare number. Well, and I have doctors who've said, well, I'll just refer all of them out and I just won't accept Medicare patients. And I'm like, okay, you're telling me as a chiropractor you want to see 100% of your population, but you're eliminating 28% of the population right there in Medicare.
You
Medi-
just
you, you
shrunk your market even
you
more.
just shrunk your marketing, right?
The
And
large,
these are the most compliant patients.
yeah,
So I mean,
largest
it's
patient.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. So I know you're involved with the chiropractic strategic plan like we are, and you're also involved with the Chiro Congress. Tell me about this National Insurance Help Desk. I heard about it yesterday on a phone call with the strategic plan. I didn't realize you were.
Okay. Yeah, so we've been doing it now for about 2 years, and we've been working with Chiro Congress, which is Ray. Do you want to explain what Chiro Congress is? It's
Chiro
the
Congress. Yeah, Chiro Congress is all of the state associations, their leadership, their executive directors, president, vice president, that type thing. And they get together a couple of times a year, maybe more frequent. But they get together, come together as states to try to help figure out, who's doing what, who's got best practices, who's getting laws passed, literally anything and everything that has to do with chiropractic in your state. It's the leadership of the associations that are part of that group.
yeah.
One more
So,
acronym in our profession that people don't know what it is. It used to be COCSA, and I won't repeat that.
yeah. Well, Chiro Congress and I started talking with Tom Wetson. This was when I was in Virginia, and we were just talking, and Tom at that time was president at Chiro Congress, and I was like, Tom, we should start a national help desk for state associations that they can place a link on their website for members and maybe even non-members as a way maybe to drive people to your membership of your state association, and put a link on their state association website where a person can click in and ask an insurance question or a question about, why was this claim denied? I'm having this problem with Anthem. What do I do? I'm having my services bundled, my exams and my exams and my spinal manipulation are getting bundled. And how do I appeal that? How do I fight that? And so what happens is we establish the help desk, and I think right now we've got 26 associations that are using it. And A person will click in that the help desk question comes directly to me, and then I sit down and I answer the question and provide the resources for that person to be able to navigate the problem that they're having with insurance. So it's helping in-house billers with their challenges, their insurance billing challenges. We're getting more and more issues, questions about, all of a sudden I've been processing in network. Now I've been out of network. Why is that? It's probably because they haven't kept up with their CAQH or their availability profile. So, we can navigate them to the right pathway to explore what the actual problem is. We also offer free consultation. So if the problem is, what I call TMI for just an email, I'll give them a link and I'll say, here, give me a call and we'll kind of talk this through. So I offer free 30-minute consultations for any of the members of the state associations. And we've literally, in the last 2 years, we have answered hundreds and hundreds of help desk questions.
Yeah, that's a great member benefit for state associations.
Yeah.
And if anyone knows me, they know what a strong proponent I am for being a member of your associations. And what's sad is I think only about 25% of our profession uh, belong to ACA or ICA, and maybe a little over 50 something percent to our state associations. And, you know, we can't make progress in this profession if we don't kind of rally together. And so
Yeah,
I'll just use that opportunity to plug, get involved with your state association,
absolutely.
and get some billing help at the same time. Well, hang tight while we take a quick break to hear from our sponsors. Welcome back to our podcast with my friend Lisa Maciejewski-West. We're having a great time catching up with you, Lisa. So your appointment to the State Office of Risk Management Board is impressive. What does your work involve there, and how does it connect to chiropractic, if it does at all?
It it in an uh inadvertent way, it does. The State Office of Risk Management, well, first of all, I'm a firm believer in civic responsibility. Okay, so whether somebody gets involved in their local Republican or Democratic state association for their state, or whether they get involved with their local government in a volunteer way. This is a volunteer position. And I've just been named about 6 months ago vice chair of this board. It's a 5-member board that is the overwatch for the entire state of Texas auto, property, and casualty and workman's compensation policies for state buildings, state employees, et cetera, et cetera. So essentially, where we come in and where it might come in with chiropractic would be if a state employee is injured on the job, right? We monitor what is happening with claims, approvals, denials, trends and reimbursements on the work comp side. So that's the small piece that would relate to the chiropractic profession, but there's really a lot more to it. We look at for example, in the state of Texas, they have a very, very hard time getting insured for buildings, especially with all of the tornadoes and hurricanes that come through the state. So going through some types of risk management pools on the local level, looking at possibly doing a statewide risk management pool for that type of insurance. So we're really on the insurance product side of things and the budgetary side.
Got
So yeah.
What would you say has been the biggest change in chiropractic billing in the last couple of years? I know we saw, that used to pay by procedure, and then some companies went to paying per diem. Some went to paying by capitation. What do you see as a trend towards the future, or is there anything out there?
think that eventually we're going to see chiropractic because the insurance companies are already trying to do this is that we're going to see chiropractic under an episode-based care. So episode-based care is kind of like as an example, maternity. So when, a woman gets pregnant, she goes to her OB-GYN and all the services that relate to the monthly visits that they have to do to go to the OB-GYN, the basic evaluations and testing like the ultrasounds, the 3-month ultrasound, the 6-month ultrasound, all of that is included in one fee. Okay, that's
The art
episode-based
for the
care. It's
hospitals.
like a global fee. So surgical packages, it's very common to see this in surgeries. And you can see the way insurance companies are trying to reimburse us. They're trying to reimburse us based on episode-based care, but we are still a fee-for-service model. And so there's this tug of war going on in the insurance industry to move towards this episode-based care. And I do believe that that is something that is coming down the pike. In my opinion, I think it would be a good thing, actually, because it would make things much more cut and dried for chiropractors to know, okay, for a traditional low back patient, I'm going to get 15 visits and I'll get 2 exams and I'll get, X number of spinal manipulations for this much money. Okay. And then they can decide what modalities they would produce within that episode of care. So, in some ways, I think it would make it easier for us because even Medicare doesn't tell us how many visits we can expect, for active treatment. Nobody wants to give us those numbers, but under episode-based care, they would have to. And so I think that in a way that would be a good thing. Um, because it would also then make it easier to transition your maintenance patients to strict cash, and then be able to produce an effective cash model for beyond that. Because right now, you have patients who or doctors who know that a patient is really no longer under active care. They really are a maintenance patient, which isn't covered. But the patient is saying, well, but I have 30 visits. But the
Mhm.
patient is ready for maintenance after 15. And now the chiropractor who is, and I am firmly believing that 99% of chiropractors are not trying to bilk the government, right? They're not trying to do something illegal, but they're just trying to be nice and kind to their patients and let their patients use their insurance. But it's to their risk, not the patient's risk, right? And so I think moving towards an episode-based care model would be an easier way for chiropractors to manage their patient populations from active care to maintenance care, and then be able to build a thriving maintenance practice that's
Yep.
all cash.
Yep. There was several years back. There was a chiropractor. I forget where he was from, but it was one of those situations where arrogance and ignorance met, and the guy ends up going to jail because his position was Blue Cross at that time. Blue Cross Blue Shield paid 30 visits, and by God, he was going to bill all 30 visits,
30 visits.
whatever frequency. And he did it over and over again. And he sued the insurance company, I believe, um, under the premise that, well, if you cover them for 30 visits, why can't they cover 30 visits? Well, doc, you got to read the medical policy.
That's
If
right.
you don't read the medical policy, it's not like they got 30 visits carte blanche. It's 30 visits for medically necessary or therapeutically
Exactly.
necessary care. And so
Yes.
here this doc was gung ho, I'm going to fight the insurance companies, and by God, they're going to pay those 30 visits, and just arrogance, think
Hmm.
take them down, and ignorance of not knowing about reading medical policy, and
Right.
bam, it was a big case and a sad case,
Yeah.
no doubt. So,
Yeah.
I am part of several Facebook groups as you probably are as well. And I see so many posts that I literally break my heart when I see a young doctor going out, trying to go it alone, answering their own phone, doing their own billing. I mean, it is, and you can tell by the questions they don't even know what they don't know, and they're relying on other people in the Facebook group that don't
Who
even know.
don't know what
They
they're
don't
doing.
know. And it's almost like making a copy of a bad copy of a bad
Yeah,
copy, and at the end you got, "Oh my god, what is this mess?"
yeah,
So, for the smaller growing practice, when is the right time to try to bring in a medical biller or a compliance, company? And I wanna preface it with this. From my perspective, docs, you need to get everything out of the office that does not produce you revenue. So your billing, your compliance, you can actually outsource to a compliance officer,
that's
because
right.
all those things do nothing but drain us if we're doing it, drain our staff and their time. And the reality is, only got so many hours in a day, and you need the production side of the practice to be running full tilt all the time. And yet we see so many docs that are split between, well, I got to do my admin stuff, and we're always going to have to do some. But at what point do you think it's appropriate for a doc to say, hey, I'm a small practice, but I need to expand. Not really sure I can afford a CA. Don't know if I could afford a biller. Kind of walk through what you would tell someone who's in that situation.
What I would tell a doctor, first of all, if I'm going to put my consultant hat on, okay, instead of my biller hat, I'm going to put my consultant hat on, and this is something I've told doctors for many many years as a coach. um, is that, and I'll ask them this question. I'll say, how many patients, depending on your technique, how many patients can you see in an hour? All right. And so let's say the average is about 10. I can see 10 patients an hour, right? How much do you charge cash? Let's not even talk about insurance. How much do you charge cash for an adjustment? $40. Okay. That's low, but let's just say $40. $40 times 10 is $400. So you are a $400 an hour doctor doing a $30 an hour job. It
A
does not make sense.
it
Period.
That doesn't
Period.
even make
You
good
should
content.
never do your admin. Always, is from the very beginning, have enough money set aside in your business startup to hire one staff person who can handle your front desk, who can handle the coordination of insurance. Maybe they can also do the billing when you're real small and they can handle the billing. You can teach them, or they can learn from me or somebody like KMC. They have a CA billing class that's absolutely outstanding, right? Some state associations, like we did a CA certification program with Ohio that is 10 hours of billing instruction. So doctors should never do any admin other than their own notes that can be done by somebody at a much lesser rate. Because here's what they tell me, and honestly, Ray, I hear this all the time. The smaller practices are the ones that say, I don't have enough time.
Exactly.
I don't have enough time to grow. I can't go out and market. I don't have enough time. I'm like, you're seeing 12 patients a day. What are you talking about? You could see all 12 of them in the first 2 hours of the day and be hitting the, the streets and going and visiting local businesses and introducing yourself. Well, I can't leave the office and I've got all of this billing work and it just doesn't make sense fiscally to do that.
No, it doesn't.
And really and truly, as far as like we go, our for small practices, we have a very reasonable flat rate for smaller practices for us to do the billing for them. And yeah, so anyway, that's how I illustrate it to doctors. It's like, what are you doing? Do you want to be a CA or do you want to be a doctor?
Well, it's like you said, if you can generate $400 an hour, why are you taking off Thursday afternoon to go cut your own yard?
Yeah, exactly. That too.
I mean, just see a few patients and, unless you enjoy lawn work, but
Right, exactly.
that's still a dumb doctor deal. I mean,
Yeah.
it just is.
Yeah.
So got some just for fun questions. Who's your hero and why?
My hero is Frodo Baggins.
I've heard that name before from you, I think.
So anybody who knows the Lord of the Rings, right? He overthrew the Dark Lord. And he was just this little guy. And so all of in my life, I have
Do you
read
identify
The
with
Lord
him?
of the Rings probably 40 or 50 times
Wow.
in my lifetime. I usually read the whole series once a year. And to me, that's probably my ultimate hero. Other than Jesus Christ, I'd say Frodo Baggins.
Got it.
Yeah.
So what talent do you have that most people don't know about?
Well, most people don't know that I am classically trained as a singer.
I look forward to hearing that sometime.
You'd
What's
have
the
to You'd
Go
have to
ahead.
get me a little liquored up to do it,
I
but we'll see.
what's the worst job you've ever had?
I spent when I was in college, this company that I worked for, the temp agency, sent me to a telemarketing firm, and it was a midnight to 8 a.m. job. I lasted 1 shift. It was the most horrible thing I've ever done. I was selling Montgomery Ward insurance to
God,
people,
that's a
calling
throwback.
people up on the phone selling Montgomery Ward insurance. It was absolutely horrible.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
Well, Lisa, thanks for spending some time with us today. And thank you all for listening to the podcast. Please subscribe and share it with your friends and let us know who you'd like to hear from in the future, what topics you'd like us to cover. We'll do our best to deliver. Docs, if you're offering discounts of any kind in your office, you need to make sure you're not violating your provider agreements as well as state, federal regulations on dual fee schedules, inducements, anti kickback violations, all of which can lead to serious fines and penalties. We can help eliminate these concerns by using our profitable discount strategy that ensures that any discounts that you might be offering are 100% compliant and, most importantly, profitable. It all starts with a short phone call to find out if we can help you, like we have thousands of other doctors nationwide. Many of our doctors have seen a 20% increase in revenue, strangely enough, when you're in a discount medical plan, but it is about that profitable discount strategy that makes that happen. And about 50% of the patients who join ChiroHealth will tend to stay around even the next year and the year after that. There is absolutely no cost for you to join. I will tell you that over the past 17 years, over 7,000 chiropractors have helped 4.3 million family members get the care they need at a cost they can afford. So if you want to increase your revenue and your retention and practice, most importantly, with some peace of mind, call us at 888-719-9990 or visit our website at chusa.com. That's chusa.com to find out why ChiroHealth USA is the network that works for chiropractic and you. Lisa, got one more question for you.
Yes.
Where are you going to be next? Where can people hear you, or how can they get in touch with you?
I'm actually going to be at the Illinois Prairie Chiropractic Association conference at the end of September. I am going to be the national keynote speaker for AMBA, but that's not a chiropractic thing. I'm going to be doing a conference with our friend Mark Sana down in the Dominican Republic in
Awesome.
October. And then in December, I'm going to be with the Georgia Chiropractic Association. Yeah, so I'm going to be around, and
Around.
our company, Gold Star Medical Business Services, if you do need to reach us, or if you got questions about the services we offer, you can email me at info@goldstarmedical.net, or you can call our number at 866-942-5655.
Good deal.
That's our corporate numbers.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Lisa, and everyone. Make it a great day. Thanks.
Take care.